Connor Rogers,
How good is this?
welcome to the Navy Brew.
It just makes sense. I was thinking, do we go with the Carlton cappuccinos, let Ligons be Ligons, maybe a bit of a pun, but I think the Navy Brew just makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. So, hello everyone. The Navy Brew, it came this morning.
It did.
It came to us this morning. We've been talking about sitting, having a coffee, chatting about the Blues. We'll use this as a bit of a season preview, and maybe just a nice way to catch up. And yeah.
There's nothing more Carlton than a coffee on Lygon Street on the eve of the season to talk about our optimism at winning a premiership while we've still got that hope.
Yes. Well, what's your coffee order?
Mate, I'm typically an oat latte type operator, not for any health sort of reasons. I was a skinny latte man, and then I got convinced to try an oat, and the creaminess, the richness, it was emboldening, I would say. What about yourself?
Good stuff. I used to be an oat latte kind of guy. Now I've just straight black, long black, espresso. I think that means I'm getting old.
Yeah, you probably are.
Yeah, that's generally how it works.
I dream of the day that... I remember when I won my first premiership as a 16-year-old playing local footy. For whatever reason, my old man and I, we came to Lygon Street, and this is where we celebrated. I was only 16, so we couldn't get too silly, but had a beautiful meal here, and we talked about the day where the street is packed full of navy blue for when we get to do it next to salute the blue baggers. So hopefully we aren't far away, mate. Where's your optimism level sitting at for the season ahead?
Optimism. My head is optimistic. My heart is a bit scared, and maybe that's just a trauma response. Maybe that's a fear response. But it's mixed. We'll get into it, but I do want to just give a little shout out to where we're sitting.
Of course.
We are here at Danini's on Lygon Street. You know what? I'm interested you said that about the story with your dad, because I want to touch on what does Lygon Street mean to you, and what does Lygon Street mean to the current supporter? Because I know it used to mean a lot more, and I don't know if that's been
Lygon Street's
lost a bit.
Been lost, I think, a bit to Carlton. Before a game or after a game, I don't know if I've ever once celebrated with a beer in and around Lygon Street. Shameful for me to say, but my connection to Lygon Street runs deep, as my mum has owned a little apartment just off Lygon Street, a 2-minute walk from here forever. So I come here with my mum for a brekkie and a lunch, and we talk about the blue baggies, but I think there is an avenue for us to reconnect the football club with this street.
Yep. No, I'm with you. I'm the same. I've never come here after a game. I come here for dinner or lunch, see Marco and Ricardo, and we do the Good Friday lunch and things like that. But I do think since we moved into the digital age, it's just the culture. They used to play games during the season at Princess Park, so naturally you'd come here. But there's opportunity to bring it into the modern world.
What I do love is, they pay respects to years past here on Lygon Street. And if you look directly next to Danini's, they've paid tribute to the great Digby Morell by opening up a little fashion store called Digby's. Not sure if this is the sort of fashion he'd roll around with, but that's definitely a nice little touch.
Now that is bringing back the memory. That's childhood. Digby Morell running around with Banana Be French.
One of the first ever cold heroes, old Digby.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so 2025. Where are you at? I've said a bit in other videos. I will get to me, but I've not spoken to you about 2025.
Mate, if you had have asked me 4 months ago, towards or after the season, I had such optimism about this year. I really thought natural progression. I wasn't too concerned about an 8th place finish last year. You got to finish within the 8 a few years in a row before you really reach the ultimate. It's just the way the ball bounces, and I really think this is our year for growth to launch into the top 4 and be that solid, reliable top 4 outfit. But when we started losing a bit of momentum over the off season, we know what happened to our CEO. President, sorry, rather, not the CEO. We know what happened to our Prez. Nick Newman going down. The Jagger going down. And suddenly you started to go from the optimism of everything that could go right to the doomsday of what is going wrong and what could go wrong to come. But the game against the Giants, and I know we can't fall into pre-season for everyone, pre-season, yada yada.
Yeah.
But it's just the little edge of momentum back in our favour, whether it be a 1% or a 10% or a 20%, who knows. But the edge of momentum back in our favour, that's made me see the sunshine and smell the roses once again. So I am optimistic, mate. I really do think that there's no reason why we can't become that top 14.
Yeah. I mean, logically speaking, the list is in the perfect spot.
Yeah.
You got those 6 or 7 players that you've invested heavily in. I mean, De Koning, at the time of filming, there's no confirmation if he's signed yet, but do you feel like he's going to sign?
I think he is going to sign. I'll tell you what he's not going to do, sign for St Kilda.
Yeah, absolutely.
That, maybe he goes to the Cats or something like that. I can guarantee you he's not going to the Saints. That much I do know.
So we wrap up these key guys, and all of them are now, what, 25 plus?
Yeah.
All 6 of your main investments. So they've had so much time together. Surely that's going to be a benefit at some point.
We're in the perfect hitting zone.
Yeah.
I also like, and this is looking way too far ahead, but by moving up in the draft and getting Jagger, we know that Cody Walker's meant to be a top 5 draft prospect, and we're getting him in a couple of years. It looks like we've also sort of begun to future-proof ourselves. So for me, being the 27-year-old Carlton supporter who's seen nothing but trauma, to know that it's looking pretty unlikely we'll plummet back into the doldrums I found myself in growing up, that's comforting as well. But where do you think the growth is coming from this year to take us into that premiership outfit?
Honestly, I do think I think Tom will have a great year, and there's another star factor player. But I think all the star factor players have already arrived. It's like Cottrell, Fogarty, Cowan, Ollie. It's the group that haven't got the flashy names in lights. I think that is where the growth will come from. I think we all do. I don't think there's too much to be surprised about this year, because the group is pretty much the same. Yeah, we lose Kennedy, yeah, we lose Owies, but like, this is us. This is the core, and this is the group that's either going to do it or not,
I think that I agree that crop, I would separate it into 3 different crops. Aside from obviously the stars that we know, and I'd even include like a Blake Acres in there that we just know certified contributors, A-grade contributors every week. And then I think you've got the young fellas, your Jesse Motlop, Lockie Cowan types, and we all know, I think that's the same for every club. Every club would hope that their growth comes from that crop. And I'm more interested in the next crop, which is the established players who we know that they've got A-grade football in them. They've proven it over maybe a season, or maybe even if it's just a patch, that they can be an all-Australian type quality footballer. If those sort of players like a Zach Williams, a Chera, McGovern, even like a Fantasia has proven over the journey that he has been capable of playing that level of football. I think if that crop join Wiedering, Curnow, Mackay, all these names that we know as those bona fide contributors every week, I think that's where our biggest point of difference will come from.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
There's so many, when you have the conversation around who's going to be most improved, it's a very hard question to answer, because there's so many of them that didn't perform well last year because they were injured. I mean, Ches, as a great example, in theory, could be the most improved, but that's just because by his standards last year, he just couldn't get on the park and whatnot. I'm with you. I think I'm just ready to start focusing on the job doers. I'm pretty confident Chera, Williams, and these guys are going to play well when they're healthy. It's these job doers that don't get the plaudits. I think I'm ready to start celebrating them more. Maybe I'll go too far one way, but I think in my experience supporting, I've projected a lot. I've always told the world, like, we're going to be good because this and this and this. I don't know. I've got a little bit of, maybe it's just
a bit of apprehension,
pent up. My fear is that the club gets in the way of the club.
Right.
There's so many elements to it: financials, corporate interest, so many things that can suck energy from the football. And I just hope more than anything that we've got all our ducks in a row, we've got everything sorted, that you can just let the departments do their thing, everyone stop interfering,
I mean, you're a lot more privy to that side of it. You know, you come from more of a white-collar background to be smart enough to engage with that side of it. It's not really my domain, but I would be under the assumption a person with the pedigree of Brian Cook, I would hope that he can have those ducks in a row.
Yep.
And I would put my faith in him that we can let the football do the talking and let the departments. Do you have some doubt over that?
I have no doubt about Brian Cook,
Yeah.
but this is his last year
Right.
at the club. And Graham Wright could be great.
Yeah.
Probably will be great.
Hope so.
Should be. Comes with a great reputation. And in theory, it's awesome because he has a year to. But I mean, I see CEO. I mean, I think even the identity of the club. I see a little bit of confusion and misalignment because you've got a generational gap.
Yeah.
On one side, it's we are the best. We are Carlton because we just know we are. We were always great, the mighty Blues. And then you've got like on the other side of that gap, you and I, where it's like, I've seen 2 finals wins, 3 finals wins, 4 finals wins, nothing close to a grand final appearance. So there's that. And then, I mean, when you have that white collar label, this is the thing. The club was built on blue collar people.
Yeah.
So
right.
you've become white collar as an organisation, but what made you that was the blue collar efforts. And sometimes I see the inconsistencies.
Where do you think we could grow in that area and perhaps embrace that more blue collar side, or involve? Is that fan involvement? Is that connecting with the people that built the club? Like, is there a specific area where you think they could really grow?
Yeah, a little bit with the fans, the digital, the way we speak to our fans. I think having people in leadership positions who grew up with digital. Instead of going on winery tours, why don't we go on wellness tours?
Yeah.
Sound Mind, Sound Body is the logo, is the slogan. I also
Great,
could be
love
reading way too deep into things, but that's why we're here. That's why we're here.
I know I'm all for embracing that, connecting ourselves to that original Carlton roots. I think that's
Hard work.
Hard work.
We're not great just because we have this great history. We're great because we earned the right to be the best. We earned it. So that's where my apprehension comes from. But
Fair
logically, I think the team is like, what are we lacking?
Have you read into it at all? And like, I'm somebody, you're probably the same, that any little SEN article, any little zero hanger, like any sort of article that pops up, I've got to read it and I've got to get the so-called expert opinion. And literally every expert I've stumbled across, whether it be a King or a Cooney, the list goes on, they have us outside the 8. How many, if we replay this world 10 times, how many worlds do you see where we miss out on the 8, as the experts predict?
1.
Good. I like
1.
that.
I also think that could be the sweet spot. There's a little bit of apprehension in the fan base. People are a little bit pissed off. The externals not rating us.
That's true.
There's no hype about Carlton pre-season.
Not as much pressure as if everyone was saying, God, these guys better be top 4 this year or else Bossie's gone.
And it's probably going to be the last season that it's like this.
Yeah.
Because if we perform well this year, then start of next year is going to be, all right, the Blues are ready, the window's here. So I just positively see sweet spots with the level of hype.
So whether you predicting a ladder or predicting a ladder position, it's just such a fool's game because injuries, the bounce of the ball, all of that sort of stuff, it factors in, and the fixtures are uneven. It's almost impossible to predict with confidence where a team will finish. But what I'm prepared to confidently say is I'm pretty certain our best football is as good as anyone's.
Yeah.
As good as anyone's, if not better, but definitely as good as anyone's. So it's just a matter of staying fit enough to reproduce that week after week. And this crew, the crew that have seen us grow from the biggest laughing stock in the league to being in a position where we can say we play as good a football as anyone, I don't think they will allow us much longer to live in a world of inconsistency.
Surely not.
It can't keep going. It just can't keep going.
Having said all of that, have you done a ladder predictor? Have you predicted wins? Have you thought about that?
You know how it's like if you've got to rate yourself out of 10 in the looks department, you never want to give yourself an 8. So you give yourself a humble 7.
Okay.
You give
Strong 7.
You give yourself a 7, or, maybe a 7.5 on a good day. So I really, in my heart and in my soul, I do believe Carlton will be top 2.
Yeah.
I do think that. But, when I do my ladder prediction, we're actually playing a fun game called AFL Ladder Golf, where you do your 1 to 18. Say you've got Richmond to finish 18th,
Yep.
and somehow they finish 17th, you get 1 point. If they finish first, you get 17 points. Lowest score at the end of the season wins. It's a bloody fun game.
Who made that up?
My old Year 10 math teacher, Paul Anarkis, so shout out to Paul.
Shout out to Paul, yep.
And I have Carlton sitting in 4th. So, that's somewhere where I think we'll finish top 2, but I'll go a bit humble.
Yeah.
And I'll go 4th.
Do you know what? Well, I had us winning 16 games, which had us, or 17 games.
Draw, man. That's such a generous draw.
Without getting cocky, learning the lessons. I had Brisbane, Carlton, Collingwood, GWS, maybe. Yeah. I think they were the top 4 that I had.
And if you look at the lessons learned and what you take away from each year, we've had this season where we were pretty insipid for one reason or another to start the season.
Yeah.
Came home like a house on fire to make the 8. And a season where we've started like a house on fire and then dropped away to nearly miss it. You just hope that we've learned enough lessons to find a way to piece it all together into one beautiful cake.
What else is there to learn?
I know, there's no more learning to be done. I'll tell you what though, like you talk about growth and we can talk about players and whether it's going to be Fogarty or Motlop or Cottrell. The change in the dialogue coming out of the football club where, can't remember the exact words, but where it used to be contest and pressure and that sort of jazz, to now it's pace and power or speed and power. Something along the lines of that. And in that game against the Giants, you saw what we were trying to do. It was the forward handball, it was exploding out the front of the contest, getting Jesse in the guts, doing this sort of stuff. So if our growth comes from game style as opposed to just individual efforts, that's just as valuable.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So I've asked a few people a few questions, bit individualistic, but I'm curious to know your pulse on a few things. Who do you think will be our most improved?
I think
you don't have to do one. You can just like who's your group? Everyone's got their players.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we are to contend, it's no secret that our main areas of improvement has to come from support for leaders and has to come from small forwards. Yeah. It's the 2. So if it is going to be the small forwards, it's obviously going to be Jesse Motlop. Okay? I believe that your Durdens, your Fogartys, these types, I think that they have a ceiling. That's not a knock on them. I think that we need reliable contributors, but their ceiling isn't Cosy Pickett. Their ceiling isn't game changers that can win you games off their own boot. Jesse Motlop, I believe, has that ceiling to be that small forward match winner. So I think that if he takes a couple steps to becoming close to that, that'll be the area of improvement personally and as a team. And then you look at the key backs and it's Jack Silvani. Us Carlton supporters, we've rated Sauce for so long, but the rest of the league, use him as a bit of a punching bag sometimes. But it's hard when you're playing ruck, you're a tagger, you're playing third tall, just so many areas where you can get lost and lost on the footy field. Being our genuine second or third key back to help out leaders, I think now's his time, perfect age, stamp your authority and be 23 games this year, Jack Silvani, a lock, a contributor every week.
I love that. It is one game, the practice match against the Giants, but it's quite interesting seeing Jack and Brodie for the first time in their new roles. So Brodie loves to fly at the football. It's great for a third forward.
100%.
Jack, not so much, but does the basics right, competes. You've got intercept players around him.
It just makes sense.
But also don't want to get too ahead of myself with it.
Does Brodie can play on your side if Charlie and Harry are fit?
Yeah, I want to see it.
Me too.
I want to see it, and then if it works, keep going. If it doesn't, change it up. But in theory, we didn't get to see a third forward last year. Jack Martin was always injured. So in theory, I do like it.
I'm always in favour of playing players with weapons even if it comes at a cost of deficiencies. So, I have, close family members that say someone like Jordan Boyd, when he goes through a bit of a dip in form, they will go, all right, it's time for him to have his go in the twos. And I go, his kicking is such a weapon that even though, he might not get enough of the ball at the moment, he has weapons that I think can win us a game of football, and I encourage him to play it. You look at Brody Kemp, sometimes he has quiet games, but he has the weapon of his leap when it's in the air, and when it hits the deck, he's a halfback flanker. He has that tenacity, that tackling, that intensity, the pace and agility to be a genuine pressure player when it hits the deck. So I want to see us persist with Brody Kemp, even if he has down games and he doesn't get much of the pill, because he has weapons.
I'm with you on that. Well, okay, so what's the threshold? Is there, let's just say he's just struggling for 1 or 2 games and then the third game he finds it? What about if it's 4 or 5? Like, what's the threshold before you say, righto, let's just put you back in the twos, work on your craft and come back?
It's hard to know where the line is. It depends also on what's happening in the twos. Like, have we got the caliber of player knocking on the door to come in, who's missing out? But look, man, like, I really want to see us, give us a 5-game run. I want to see 5 games where we try, because you're not going to get that cohesion straight away with the 3 tools. It's going to take a bit of time, but I want to see a little bit of a patch, a little bit of a run where we can say, holy shit, this could be just about our biggest weapon in the side.
I love that.
Yeah, I think so.
My most improved? Oh, there's so many. I'm buying Orazio stocks.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
I'm on board.
I'm buying it. Continuity. Finally got him on the park last year. Yeah, okay. A lot of people will look at stats, but to have an IQ out there is important. Gets the full preseason under his belt, 2 practice matches. I think he's ready. I mean, I don't see why he couldn't.
People
honestly
think
kick 30.
People think of him like he's 33.
Yeah.
I think he's still sub 30, isn't he? Or
I think he's
30?
just sub 30. Yeah, I think so.
So he's still got what it takes, and when you consume a lot of the Carlton content that they've been bringing out, you can tell he's a really loved and respected figure. And maybe I'm giving myself too much credit as a body language reader, but I look at him and it looks like he has a confidence, like he belongs. Like the players respect him, and like he believes that he has a role and he can contribute. So I'm with you, man. I'm buying Raz stocks as well.
I like Raz.
And I hate our culture. I suppose every team has it, but our culture of having a whipping boy.
Oh man, I saw some things over the weekend and I was like, fuck, it's like the cycle. I remember when Murph, at the end of Murph, I love Murph. Murph was my favourite. I was 17 when he got drafted. Like, I just loved him. And then at the end, I just saw some of the darkness against him.
Yeah.
And I saw it for the first time rear its head against Doc.
Yeah.
And I was like, where is this coming from?
I know.
Like, why do we do it?
Yeah.
Is it frustration that just happens to be directed at a player, but the frustration is not really the player, it's the club? I don't know, but I do think it's a real Achilles heel.
I think everyone always needs, well, not everyone, the people that are happy to have a whipping boy, whether it be a coach or a player, they need to find a reason or an excuse. Because it can't just, people don't want to accept, it's too hard to just say, we're not where we need to be and we need to improve and there's things to work on. People want the easy out of, if Orazio was out and Jackson Binns was in, we'd start winning games. That's not how it works. That's not it at all. No. And I think if, imagine a world where you did have a football club. It could be any sport because it happens across every code. But imagine if you had a club where maybe Raz hasn't had the biggest patch for a month or the best month, but all the comments were, you'll get there, Raz. You imagine if there was that culture. I reckon that in itself would have the ability to change the fortunes of a football club.
Because there's certain players, let's be honest, who probably shouldn't have social media because it's just a bit too savage.
For sure.
And the internet's the internet. I mean, I don't know if it's ever really going to change. I would hope that one day it will. I have a feeling even if we won a flag, there'd be someone out there that says, we should have won by 10 more goals or 2 more goals or whatever. So, I'd love to see that change. But that also comes back to what I was saying earlier. There's just something like a darkness that I feel.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just life. Maybe everything has beauty and pain and
the yin and the yang, you need the darkness to appreciate the light.
And that's just what it is. And we can't just live in utopia.
I think it also factors in that we have had 22 to 3 decades of pain. I think that maybe if we were a Geelong footy club that always seems to just be there or thereabouts, maybe we wouldn't have that same darkness.
Yep.
Look, man, we're already such a powerhouse, such a massive club with the 2 to 3 decades of pain behind, previous to what we've just experienced. So if we do string together a couple of prelims, maybe win a grand final, maybe in the next 5 years we win a premiership or two.
That's true.
Imagine where we will go from to two. It's always scary to think how big the club will become with the natural growth that comes out of winning premierships. Just needs to happen now.
Yeah. So what about best and fairest?
I think that I would love to say Walshy.
Yeah.
I'd love to say Walshy. If there was any player in our team that I could pick to win the best and fairest, for the fortunes of us winning a premiership, it'd be Sam Walsh. Because I think if he gets back to his, being a Brownlow medal favourite as he was, a couple of years ago sort of thing, then all of a sudden we've got Cripper and Walshy just dominating the guards, a couple of Coleman medalists up forward, and Walshy plays a full season. So I hope that it's Walshy because I think that transforms our whole season. But I think that it will be Tom De Koning.
Tom De Koning. Oh yeah. Well, if he takes that next step, for sure.
Especially with Pitto injured at the start of the season, he takes that mantle. There's all this talk about him, and he has this sort of shoulders back aura strut about him, like he's ready. He doesn't strike me as the sort of person where he's shying away from it.
Yeah.
I reckon he's leaning into this contract, all the hype about him at the moment. Who do you reckon?
And he does it with a smile on his face, by the way.
Hard to go past Crippo for being serious.
Yeah. I picked Cripper for the Brownlow this time last year.
Really?
So I can only go down from here. I think my eyes have been on Weeders and Cripps this pre-season, and also George Hewitt, Chera in that group. But if I had to pick one, I'll go for Weeders.
Nice.
Because they value defence first, etc., etc. And I just think Weeders is going to be one of those players that it's the longevity, it's the excellence over a long time. I don't know if the league will catch up to the appreciation for him the way that we do. Yeah, Weeders. And so I think he'll get that appreciation from us and from the club with his number of best and fairest.
I think he's had so much responsibility. He's struggled to find that second key back. Like, of course we love McGovern and we love Youngie, but sometimes they go down with injuries or whatever, and he has been there to do a little bit too much. I think Haynes, from what we've seen so far, for me, it's not even some grand illusion to think that he might become that All-Australian player he was. Like, I think that he has that in him. Not literally All-Australian, but to be an A-grade contributor.
Yeah.
It looks like he has that in him. So I think if Haynes, Thos, McGovern, hopefully is fit, contributes to that aerial help and defensive structure, I think Weeders will take the next step when he has even less responsibility and can come off his man more and be more of a presence. I think it'll only help him.
Yeah, I mean, once you reach All-Australian level, no matter how old you get, you got something.
Yeah.
You know how to read something, your angles, your body positioning. So I do love him. I do love Nick Haynes. I got one. So Jagger, obviously sad story. With the loss of Matt Kennedy, I thought, okay, Jagger might just fill those minutes a bit. Now Jagger's gone. Can't help but feel there's space for, maybe it's one of the mids, maybe it's one of the forwards that plays mid-time, but who's going to be the main beneficiary from those minutes, those possessions? Because Newman was rolling up at stoppage at times, so there's a gap there.
I think it'll be Elijah Hollands. I think if he... do you know why he's been on limited minutes at all? What's going on?
I don't want to go there.
Yeah,
it's too much smoke and fires.
Okay.
I hope everything's fine.
Yeah.
I wish the club would just hit the nail on the head, and maybe something's happening, maybe something's not. But it is weird that he hasn't played. But
well, I think that he's a player where he could sneaky, and this is wishful thinking. Maybe if we replay the Worlds 100 times, it only happened 3 times. But he's a player that could be a best and fairest winner. He has that goal-kicking midfield burst. Every time he gets the ball, he does something with it. And I think that if he gets given more responsibility and he he takes up those midfield minutes that maybe Jagger was going to have, or lost through Kennedy, whatever it may be, I really think that he could explode and be even bigger than what his trajectory suggests.
I like that. And it has to be a good ball user. So I think he could be one. I think Chera's the other one, because I think Cripps and Walsh and Hewitt, great ball winners, but I think Chera's the one that's got the potential to have the elite disposal where you trust him enough to get the ball through him.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that's what they were going to try and do with Jagger if he was ready for it, because he can hit a quick target, a short one. Seen Doc a little bit in the midfield in the preseason. That could be it, could not be. I think Chera is primed.
There are just so many. I mean, this is every single team in every single
Carlton conversation.
So many teams in so many sports, and it's all the same conversations. It's all the if, but if Walsh stays sitting out there, if Chera gets back to his best and fairest winning, or what he would have if he hadn't gotten injured 2 years ago, all the pieces are there. It's just a matter of it coming together. So time will tell. We will see. I have the belief. It's just a matter of putting it all together.
Connor, may this be the conversation, the first one of 2025 in a premiership year.
Wouldn't that be? Imagine reflecting on this in 6, 7, 8, however many months it is time, and knowing that this was what sparked a premiership.
A premiership. It's been a pleasure.
Mate.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to doing it again.
Go Blues.
Go Blues.